Well, good morning. It's good to have you back for another day as we are continuing on through our study of the book. My name is Kevin Young. I have the privilege of serving at Christ Table as lead clergy. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, you can visit that URL right up there, www.christstable.today. Would encourage you while you're there to sign up for our email list so that you will know everything that's going on around Christ Table. Now, if you'd like to know more about this study in particular, then that URL that is right there in front of me, go.christstable.today/the book is where you can find all of the information about all 28 days, 7 weeks of this study. You can get a schedule of all the days of this study from beginning to end and all the texts that are a part of this study, as well as download a free PDF study guide that lists all of the whole text for each and every day, not just the reference. It also has some background information for every day to help you understand what's going on. It includes some questions to help you go deeper or to begin conversations around your table, and also includes an extra section with questions that will help you have conversations with adolescents and with youth and children in your house. Now, what we're doing in this study is we are spending time looking into different sections of the Bible to try and understand if there are different ways to see things, or maybe ways for people who are maybe outside of traditional, fundamental, conservative interpretation of the Bible to kind of see these things and gain handles that will help us make the book come alive in a way, again, that hopefully is powerful and that resonates. And so this week we're looking at the book of Psalms, and I have to admit that the book of Psalms is often misunderstood because we don't recognize many times that the book of Psalms is actually a book of songs. 150 songs or so from the Hebrew scriptures that were sung personally, privately, but also and mostly publicly in worship, to worship, from worship, on special occasions. And so it's kind of a hymnal. You know, when you go to a traditional church and you see that hymn book in the back of the rack and you open it up, and that's what this book of Psalms is. It's a soundtrack. It's a songbook. And today we find ourselves in Psalm chapter 88, verses 1 through 7. Now, I want to actually back up a little bit and begin with the header. Some of these songs have superscriptions, have inscriptions above them to help us know a little bit more about them. So this one says that it's for the choir director, a psalm of the descendants of Korah, a song to be sung to the tune of the suffering affliction. Now, there's a lot of information in here, and I can't go into all of the detail, but first of all, from the descendants of Korah. Korah is a very bad name, kind of in the Old Testament, because Korah led an uprising against Moses that ended up ending very badly because God got involved and wasn't a fan and kind of went shock and awe on the situation. And so that this song is from the descendants of Korah actually says a lot about the redemption that happened in Korah and in his family later on, I mean. But also, it says something else that may be very appropriate for the descendants of Korah, in that this is a song about suffering and a song about affliction. And if you read, for extra credit, the story of Korah, you're going to understand why the descendants kind of understood what it meant to sit in suffering and in affliction. And so this song is to be sung to that tune of this other song. And this is quite a song. It is about suffering. It is about affliction. And it is what we consider a song of lament. Now, there are lots of different kind of categories of songs in the book of Psalms. You might even go into your record store. There aren't a lot of record stores around anymore, but you can go online, you can go on Spotify, and you can search through categories of songs depending on what your mood is or what you want to listen to. It can be something that's contemporary, that's newly released. It can be something traditional. It can be something that's instrumental based. It can be jazz. It can be rock. It can be soft, easy listening. I'm showing my age here, going back to radio categories. But there are different kinds and styles of music, of song. And this is the way that the book of Psalms is in its song selection. And this Song of Lament category is for many of you, easily understandable. It's a song of sorrow. It's music of sadness and regret and grief. Today, we might call this category country music. I'm sorry if I offended any country music fans. Actually, I adore country music. I was raised on country music in the Midwest. We can only listen to Christian music, Southern gospel, and country music. I don't know why, but I guess maybe God listens to country music and Southern gospel, and that's the way that it was. But songs of lament, songs of loss, songs of grief, songs of mourning, songs of suffering, songs where you're sitting there like Job in the pile of, and you just want a sad song that kind of fits the mood. This is these songs in the book of Psalms. And Psalm 88, the one that I'm trying to get to, is the lamentiest of all of the laments in the Hebrew songbook of songs. It is dire, it is depressing, it is down, and it is one that many times folks will avoid. Or if they go into it, they're trying to quickly get something positive and get out of it. Because, nobody wants to use the text like this for a sermon and leave everybody at the end of that sermon exiting church in a very depressed, mournful mood. And Psalm 88 is dark. It's the darkiest of all of the dark songs. It's the worst of the saddest country music. It's In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. It's that level of depressing. You can't sit in this for very long because you feel it and you don't want to feel it anymore. Now we're going to read just 7 verses. We're going to basically read the first verse, just before the musical interlude. And it just keeps going from where we stop. So if you really want to sit in this and you want to celebrate lament, which seems to be an oxymoron, if you want to celebrate lament, then you just keep reading past where we are. O Lord, God of my salvation, I cry out to you by day. I come to you at night. This is normal, right? Nothing out of the ordinary here. Now hear my prayer. Listen to my cry, for my life is full of troubles and death draws near. There are moments where truly I'm sure you have felt as though death draws near and your life is full enough of troubles where either by someone else or by your own hand, you might take your life. But for any of you who have walked through anxiety or depression or panic or some of the most difficult things that you can walk through in relationships or in losing somebody, you understand what it's like to say kind of a dead person walking, that oftentimes there is something that is worse than dying, and that is living under the trouble that you are currently facing. Literally or metaphorically, you can't escape these feelings and still be human and be alive. I'm as good as dead. The song continues. This is a song. Like a strong man with no strength left. Can you imagine singing this in church on Sunday morning? They have left me among the dead, and I lie like a corpse in the grave. I am forgotten. I am cut off from your care. God, you have thrown me into the darkest pit and into the darkest depths. And so not only are you in trouble, not only have you been abandoned by others, but even God himself says, now my problem. For somebody who cares about God, that's not really great. Your anger weighs me down, and with wave after wave, you have engulfed me. And so there seems to be almost this idea that God is sending these troubles and things and intentionally not removing them and drowning you in what's going on for some reason or other, which you do not know and cannot understand and probably would not approve of. And then we take a break for a musical interlude. And from there, things just continue to get far darker. So what do we do with all of this? We don't avoid it. I find oftentimes that religious people tend to ignore, avoid, circumvent, go around, pretend as though bad things don't happen. And when they're happening, they tend to pretend as though it's not happening, or it's not that bad, or it's going to end soon. We put on the face, we smile, we say the right words. God's got this. It's possibly far worse for other people. I know, I'm carrying this burden. Other people have far worse things. We minimize. We give God a pass. We give our faith this magic get out of jail free card where whenever troubles come to us, we can't blame God for not acting in the way that we want, because the doctrinal ramifications of that, the mental ramifications of the fact that God may have done this, or God may not be preventing this, or we don't deserve this, are far too much for us to sit through, and it would make us too dark. It would take us to too dark of a place if we sit here in this and the ramifications of actually sitting in it. And this is the point of Psalm 88 and the other laments. Don't short circuit the lament. This is maybe one of the most powerful lessons that modern day, especially evangelical Christendom, needs to learn. And it's something I think that maybe society needs to learn as well, because we short circuit death. We short circuit death through life support. We short circuit death by refusing to grant people the ability to let us die, keep resuscitating us. We circumvent and short circuit death by ignoring it. We don't go to funerals. We don't have any rites of passage anymore for when people pass away. We try to avoid as much as is possible thinking about it. We will go and get it nipped, tucked, cut, covered in order to prevent ourselves from looking as though we're getting close to death. We will dye our hair until we're 90 years old. I dye my beard. I used to. People can tell. We do all of these things because we want to avoid death, or looking like death, or the hint that we might be one day closer to death than we were a day earlier yesterday. And this transports over to our spiritual journeys and our relational journeys and our psychological journeys, our mental journeys, our practical journeys. We try to short circuit sadness. We try to short circuit lament. We try to short circuit pain and problems. And in so doing, we do not learn the lessons that we should be learning during those things. We want to stay on the high. It's just not possible. At some point, we will crash and burn. Sometimes you got to sit in the sorrow and the grief and the pain and just breathe for a while and be. And it will not always be, but it is okay that for now it be. So when you're in those moments, let it be. Until tomorrow.